No mai, haere mai, and welcome to the Early Literacy Clinic. And my topic today is how to teach writing to students who can't write yet. And this is something I often go off-piste on my courses and talk about because it's something teachers ask me a lot. You know, what do you do when you have students in your class who can't actually write and haven't had that success with writing? And I'm just going to teach you the way that I use that has been very successful. If you've got a way that's successful, ka pai, use that way, but this is my way. So I want to start off by going over a few points about the teaching of writing. And firstly, I want to say writing is the hardest thing we teach. It's the hardest thing to learn. It's the hardest thing to teach. It's a very complex process and it needs a number of operations. Think of all the balls you have to juggle when you write. You've got to be able to compose. A lot of students don't know what to write about. You've got to be able to come up with a sentence. A lot of children find that very challenging. You've got to hold the sentence. You've got to hold and remember what it is you want to write about. You've got to be able to hold a pencil. Some tamariki don't have the muscle strength. You've got to be able to finger space, go from left to right. You've got to be able to spell. You've got to be able to form letters. There's a lot going on. So it's a very complex process. The other point I want to make is that many New Zealand trained primary teachers, myself included, we were not trained in how to teach writing to students who couldn't write. So when I trained as a teacher, yes, I was taught wonderful stuff about how to make my writing program language rich, how to make it exciting, how to make it dramatic, but I wasn't actually taught what to do in the first place if they can't write at all. The final point is that many students start school not ready for reading and writing, especially more now than what we've ever seen before. So they have poor language, poor vocabulary, poor structure, poor grammar. All of those things will impede them as a writer. Maybe they don't even have the hand strength to hold a pencil, because if you've spent the first couple of years of your life pushing a finger on a screen and not catching balls and painting and playing in the sand and working with Play-Doh, you won't have even built up the muscles in your hands, or they haven't had any of those important free-writing experiences such as drawing and painting. Well, children come into our classrooms and they're already on the back foot because they have come into school not ready, but we still have to teach them the same. So that's a few pointers I wanted to make before I got into it properly. So first of all, the writing environment in the classroom. So you want to set up your environment. Now, I always do writing at tables or desks, not on bean bags, not on the floor, but I want them seated at a desk, backs into the desk, sitting up properly. I work with pencils, not pens. And yes, I have erasers, rubbers, and I have one or two soft ones in the center of the table. And I'm constantly monitoring who's rubbing and how often they're rubbing. But I think children should be allowed to rub out if they make a mistake. I mean, I'm allowed. Why aren't they allowed? What are they going to write on? So some teachers like paper, some like exercise books. I prefer, and you can see here a page from an exercise book of a student. I prefer an exercise book which has nice wide lines, and I draw in for that day stars, in this case it's hearts, for where I want the student to write. Now, I only ever do one day at a time. So when children open the exercise book, they don't write on any old page. They have to find a page with the stars, and that's the page they write on, so that children aren't skipping pages in their books. This is quite a handy exercise book, the one that has the blank at the top for them to draw their picture later, and then they do their writing here. Or if I'm doing Reading Discovery Club and we only have like, I think 8 minutes for writing, I use the exercise book with no space for pictures because there is no time for that. Now, I always get the children to do their pictures if they're doing them after the story. I don't start story writing with drawing a picture. I know most New Zealand teachers do, and that's kei te pai. If that works for you, fabulous. I don't do it that way for beginning writers because, one, I really don't think it's the best use of my time as a teacher to sit and watch you draw a picture of something you're going to write about, because if you are somebody who wants to spend quite a long time on your picture, I get like, come on, come on, come on. I don't want to be that kind of teacher. So I don't want to sit there and watch them draw a picture in order to write. Secondly, the other reason I don't start writing with a picture is because I don't think writing does start with a picture. To me, as I'm always saying to my students, writing is your voice written down. So to me, writing starts with talking. So my writing session starts with conversations that are about what we're going to write about today. So clearly, you do what works for you, but this is the format I use. So we've set up the writing environment. In terms of when to write, personally, I mean, it doesn't matter really, but I like to write in the afternoon, because then at least we've got things that have happened in the morning to refer to if they don't know what to write about. I can say, well, you could write about when you were doing in the, in the home corner, la, la, la. And I like to do it either after shared writing or handwriting. So they come from one or the other and into their writing. That's just a preference. I'm not hard and fast on that. So now let's meet the student who can't write yet. So there'll be two ways that you'll be working with the student. Either you might be a class teacher, maybe you teach new entrants, and this child has started school, it's her 5th birthday, first day of school, clearly she can't write yet. Or maybe you're working with an always funded student, or a student with a lot of resourcing, and you work one-on-one, in which case you sit next to them. But I'm going to talk you through the scenario of when you work with a student in the class situation in the group, because that's where most of us are at. So the first thing I'll do is I'll say to that student, I'll say, oh, we're going to do writing now. You come and sit next to me. So at my writing table, I might have 4 to 6 students, and the student on either side of the teacher will be the lowest student. So clearly she's the lowest because it's her first day of school. She can't write yet. And the students opposite me have been in my class maybe 1 or 2, 3 weeks or what have you. So what are the 4 steps in an early writing lesson? Well, first of all, there's composition. What are you going to write about? Composing. Secondly, there's holding structure. So holding on to that, what you want to write about, and not letting it segue into something else. Third one is the actual writing. And the fourth one is sharing the writing afterwards. So let me just go through each of those one at a time. So composition. So we want them to get straight into it. So as soon as we sit down for writing, students turn to each other in twos usually, and they have to tell their buddy what they're going to write about today. Now, some children can't even do that. So I find them, and because I'm at the table too, and I come up with a few ways to get them to compose a sentence. So I might say, well, do you know what you want to write about? And the child might say, oh, my dog. Oh, okay, your dog. What do you want to say about your dog? Well, is your dog big? My dog is big. Okay, your story is my dog is big. But maybe my student can't even come up with an idea, in which case I will give them 2 suggestions, and the rule is they have to choose one. Because if they say, oh, I don't want to do either of those, like, you could be there for a long time. So I set that expectation up before they go to writing, that if you don't know what to write about, I'll give you 2 ideas and you have to choose one. So I might say, right, you can write about your dog, or you can write about your, I don't know, something, your cat, let's say, and they have to choose one. But if they can't even do that, then, and it's a very low group or very low student, I'll give them a sentence starter. And this is particularly useful for students who aren't even speaking in sentences yet. So I'll say, right, your story is going to start. I went to the, okay, Chantel, what's your one? I went to the park. Okay, Emma, what's your, I went to the library. Okay, what's your one? Nahua, I went to the assembly. Great. So they each have their own story, which is different from the others, but I've given them a very structured start, because some children really need that structure to get them going. So that's step 1, is composition. And by the way, teachers, if you do have those students who have no problems composing and come up with like those really amazing stories, like, well, I went to the Speedway with my dad and I saw my uncle and he gave me some, like, on and on the story goes, you've got to prune it, because it's got to be successful. So what I'd say is, wow, you have come up with an awesome story today, because we don't have a lot of time. You can write, I went to Speedway with Dad. And then tomorrow you can write about your uncle. And then I make a little note to myself to remind the student to write about the uncle the next day, because you've got to set them up for success. And a child who has just started school can't write that kind of long story just yet. So step 1 is composition. Step 2 is holding structure. This is when we rehearse or we practice the structure to help remember it. Because one of the biggest problems in writing is students, they might come up with what they want to write about, and then they start writing, and halfway through, oh, they've forgotten it. And then the writing becomes something else. And then the writing is just a pickle. So I want them to hold structure and stick to what they say they're going to write about. So if you say your story is, I went to the warehouse with Mum, that's your story. You can't change it. Not at this early stage of writing. Later, once they're down the track with writing, do what you like. But right now, it's about like holding on to that structure. So every student has to say to the group what their story is and clap it. You know, I went to Speedway with Dad, or my mum got a new car. Everyone just tells the group their story, and the other students are meant to be good listeners and look at the person when they're saying and clapping it. Why do they clap it? Because it will help memory much better. And if they're a bit wobbly, if you're listening, thinking, oh, don't I've got to remember it, make them do it twice. And by the way, I always jot it down on a scrap piece of paper, because I can't remember 6 stories, but I need to know what the story is. So if they go off piece, I can say, oh no, you said your story was, and then I've got it written down, and they know I've got it as well. So we've composed, we've practiced it and held the structure, and now we're going to start the actual writing. So before picking up the pencil, you set them up for success. Now, there's one tool that I do use at writing time, and that's the PW card. So lots of teachers have these in their classrooms. There's all different versions. This is my version. I call it the PW card. P is for phonics and W is for words, but you don't have to buy them. You can make, like teachers made them themselves for years before publishers started making them. And what I suggest you do is make sure that the phonics side has the mnemonics for whatever phonics scheme that you're following. So it could be Jolly Phonics, Littleland, whatever. This is my phonics. And then the other side will have the common words that appear in writing use more often than not. And this is the big one that the teacher uses at shared writing. And then each of my students has the identical miniature one to use at writing time. Okay, so I say to the students, once they've composed and held structure, I say, oh, before you write, if there's a word in your story and it's on your word card and you copy it correctly, well, I'll give you a tick. But if it's not in your story, for every sound you get the letter for using your phonics side of your card, I'll give you another tick. So do you see, just before the children start writing, the teacher sets them up and says, use your graphic knowledge, you know, use your words, or use your phonics. And they're going to need to use both in the story. And then I say, now start writing. Now, what about the student who can't write yet? So I've got her next to me. So I turn to her first. And the first thing I do is I say, tell me again what your story is. And if she's forgotten it, that's okay, you've got it written down. So I might say, well, you said your story is, I got a game. Tell me again your story, because you want her mouth to say it, not your mouth only. And she'll say, I got a game. And then I'll say, great, now what's the first word in your sentence? I. So the teacher now has to make a decision. Am I going to use phonics or graphic knowledge? Well, obviously you can't sound out I'm going to use graphic knowledge. So I point to the word I on the word card. I say, that word is I. And I get her to put your finger on I, put your I in, and you say it. What's the word I? What's the word I? And then I have a bit of blue tack on the desktop, and I pinch off a bit of blue tack and I pop it next to that word I, because, you know, most children who start school don't have the visual discrimination skills. If she looks away and looks back, she probably won't be able to find it because it's just a whole lot of black squiggly lines. So I just put a little bit of blue tack there so she can find it. And then I say, now open up your book, find the page where I've put the star in the margin, find it. Okay, so see that little star? You've got to copy I there. And look, if she's never held a pencil before, get the pencil in her hand, make sure she's holding it, and let her do that. Now, while she's doing that, of course, you've now got to attend to the others. What are you doing? Have you sorted this? Are you getting that? La, la, la. Oh, she's finished. Now I say, reread. And she says, I, and I'm like this. What's that? Got. Okay. Got is in the green flower. Put your finger on got, put your eyes on got. What's the word got? Say it again, got. Put a bit of blue tack there. Finger space. Now copy got. So that will take ages. While she's doing that, you're helping the others. What are you doing? Fix that, sort that. Now, of course, the good thing about using a word card is, for a lot of children, is that very quickly they're going to remember where the and I and is going to be, and they're not going to need your help. But to get them started, you know, you will have to tell them. And you're not going to ask them to find it, because it is their first day of school, and you're supporting them, you're helping them find it. So I got is also in the green flower. Put your finger on I got and make her reread every time. I got game. Well, game we're going to need phonics for, because it's not a common word. So you ask your normal phonics question, first sound for game, And if she can't answer, repeat and exaggerate. First sound for g, 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 it's this one. I say g, 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 game, like g, 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 gorilla. Put your finger there, say it, g. Make it again, g. Put your blue tack there, finger space. Copy the letter for g. Now do a full stop. And now you can take that off to the drawing table and draw your picture. Okay, so that is the first day of writing if she's never written before. And I will keep to that, make her reread and repeat until the sentence is finished. And that's the structure I'm going to do tomorrow. And that's the structure I'm going to do the next day and the next day and the next day. So this is what we call word by word support. She can't write at all. So there's no point just throwing her in and saying, write what you think it is. And then she'll come up with a page full of squiggles. And then we all pretend it's a story. I know it's not a story. She knows it's not a story. We're all pretending. So now I want it to be very structured. It's about your voice written down. So this is word by word support. And this is the most support you're ever going to get. But I can't sustain it. So I will give her that support for 2 weeks, about 2 weeks, because that will be what? 10 phonics lessons, 10 guided writing lessons, 10 shared writing lessons. But I need to get the student sitting on the other side of the table because I know I've got someone else about to join my class on their 5th birthday. So after about 2 weeks in my class, I'll do this. So by now, I bet she's finding a few words by herself. But let's say her story is, I like the movies. Well, okay, I like that, no problem. Movies, and I say first sound for movie, she'll say, but this time, instead of saying, is that one, I'm going to say, is it that one or that one? And I'm going to give her a choice of 2. So I'm basically starting to hand a bit more of the responsibility to her. Now, if she gets it wrong, you can always say, oh no, it was that one. But from now on, I'll say, is it that one or that one? Is it that one or that one? Is it that one or that one? And I'll do that for another 2 to 3 weeks. So now we're like 4 to 5 weeks after starting school. And then I'll say, because by now she's had at least 20 phonics lessons and 20 writing lessons, so the structure's becoming ingrained, I'll say, oh, it's somewhere on that line. And after 6 to 8 weeks of starting in my class, do you know what I say then? Find it yourself, because that is what I've been teaching for since the day they started school. So these are very useful tools. And as I said, you don't have to rush out and buy one. You can make your own, and that's totally fine. But essentially, we're trying to get the student to be independent. What can you insist on for beginning writers? So we can insist on a couple of things: that they must always write from left to right, okay? That they start at the margin, which is why I put the little star there, so they know to start there. That they can finger space between words. Sometimes I'll draw a smiley face on their fingers for beginning writers, so they know after you write a word, your finger's so happy that they want to check it. So they learn to put that finger space between words. They can also be taught full stop at the end of the sentence. And it's quite a big thing to teach them. A full stop is just a little dot on the line, not a big soccer ball floating between the lines, and obviously lowercase only. Things that you can wait till later, further down the road: capitals, hearing more than one sound in a word, other punctuation. But we're just teaching the absolute basics, because you know what teaching writing is like. You can teach everything and then you've taught nothing. And then the final step is the share. So they go off to their table, and then I have the next group. So it takes me between 12 to 13 minutes to get through a group of beginning writers, because we're just writing one sentence. Off they go to illustrate their stories. The next group comes to me, and that way I like to see everybody every day at writing. But we want to do the sharing, because writing is to be shared with an audience. So at the end of the lesson, we all come to the carpet, and those who have done a story that they want to share stand up, and then they can choose, either they read it to the class, and it's pretty short because it's just one sentence, or they can ask if I can read it, and I'm happy to do that, because some children, you know, they're a bit whakama, a bit shy about reading to the others. I just do it very, very quickly. I've already ticked off, by the way, every time. Remember how I told them that if they got the word, they'd get a tick, or the sound they got a tick. So before I send them to draw their picture, I've actually already ticked it off, and then they read it to the class. So let's look at some samples of writing. Oh yes, because I don't want to go too much longer. So this is a piece of writing from Jamie. Jamie wrote this on his first day at school in my new entrant class. He was my lowest ability student that year. He'd never held a pencil, and he didn't speak in sentences. And he and I came up with, he was going to write, I am Jamie. And he did get a tick for I, And to be fair, I had to put my hand over his hand to help him form it because he just couldn't form letters. His couldn't hold the pencil. But, you know, first day of school, you got to get a tick. And he got to stand up and read it to the class, I am Jamie. But this is what he wrote 4 months later. In the holidays, I will go swimming with my dad. Now, holidays was on the board, and in and there and my and dad, they were on a word card. But you can't have every word on a word card. And that's where he's used his phonics. You can see he's got W for I will, S for swimming, and W for with. So you can see he's using his graphic knowledge as using his phonics. And you can see I've ticked off everything he's done that the teacher asked him to do. Now, okay, it took me 4 months to get Jamie here. This was a child with lots of challenges, but most children I'll have here within 6 to 8 weeks. But you know what the best thing was about Jamie? He loved writing. And, you know, in my experience, every child should love writing. And in my class, everyone loves writing. Why do children hate writing? Because it's too hard. Because we've made it too hard by not structuring it well enough for them. So this is the method I've used. It's been very successful for my students. What next? As I've already said, you repeat tomorrow and the next day and the next day. And then as you can, you withdraw that one-on-one, that word-by-word support, and keep up your shared writing to reinforce the teaching. A few last pointers. Just remember, writing is the hardest thing we teach. Therefore, we kind of have to teach it every day, because it's by doing it every day that the child gets that control over it. And for the majority of the time, I really like children to write about what they want to write about, because then they've got so much more invested in it. So this is for children learning to write. Those of you teaching further up the school, that's your decision. But for me, teaching those little children learning to write, or older students who can't write, I let them choose. But if they can't, I give them some support. Ensure children know that there's a reason for every letter they put on the page. They're not allowed to write a letter on a page without a reason. If they do, I rub it out, because writing is not filling up a page full of random letters. And finally, of course, you've got to teach your phonics. You've got to teach, you know, to read and write those basic words. And you've got to teach separately handwriting, because children who can form the letters without having to think about it are going to find writing easier. All right. Oh, and here's just a final, just to remind you of that writing I showed you earlier of Isaac. You can see he's got his finger spaces, he's got his ticks, he's gone from left to right. After school, I'm going to Pioneer Pool. All right. Well, that's what I want to say about how to teach writing to children who can't write yet. I hope you found it useful. I love teaching writing. It's my favorite thing to do, because everyone's going to be successful.